International condemnation is growing louder after U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said the move jeopardizes an institution which was set up to make sure that dictators can't persecute people and start wars. The United Nations is calling on Trump to reverse his decision.
In The Hague, a sense of disbelief and indignation. The International Criminal Court condemned U.S. President Donald Trump's decision in a statement, saying, "The court stands firmly by its personnel and pledges to continue providing justice and hope to millions of innocent victims of atrocities across the world in all situations before it." Trump signed the executive order while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was visiting Washington. The document accuses the court of what it calls illegitimate and baseless actions. It also sanctions individuals and their families who helped the ICC investigate U.S. citizens or allies. In November, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, saying there were reasonable grounds to suggest the two officials, as well as a former Hamas commander, bore responsibility for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. It was a decision that sparked a furious reaction in Israel.
The decision to issue an arrest warrant against me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and our former defense minister, was made by a rogue prosecutor who's trying to extricate himself from sexual harassment charges, and by biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic sentiments against the one and only Jewish state.
This is a testament to your...
The US and Israel are not members of the ICC and do not recognize its decisions. But 125 other countries, including all 27 EU members, are, and they would be obliged to arrest Netanyahu on their territory. The bloc has been divided over his warrant, but as Trump targets the ICC, the condemnation from EU and UN officials is growing louder, calling on Washington to reverse the decision.
Let's speak to our correspondent, Lucia Schulten, in Brussels about all of this. Tell us first what reactions we've heard to this move, especially from the ICC itself.
Yeah, so the reaction from the ICC was relatively short. It has said it does condemn the executive order, and it has been calling on all of its members, which are 125, to stand up for justice and fundamental human rights. And among these 125 members, there's the European Union. And also here in Brussels, we have heard from the European Union institutions. There has been Ursula von der Leyen that has said that the ICC has to be able to pursue freely and independently, and needs to fight against impunity, and that Europe is standing up for these values. Then at the same time, we have heard from Viktor Orban, who took to X, that he said that they might have to reconsider their cooperation with an international organization which is under US sanctions, and he called this the Trump tornado. So the European Union might not be that united towards that.
Now, the United States played a key role in establishing the ICC, but we've heard it is not itself a signatory. I'm curious what Trump's move here will actually mean for the work of the International Criminal Court going forward.
So it is mainly what is expected among these sanctions are travel bans for ICC members and agents, but also their family members, and also the freezing of assets. And what we are hearing right now, Reuters is reporting that ICC officials are meeting today to discuss what that actually means for them. And at the same time, which is important to say, is that the list of the people which are under sanctions now has not been published yet. It is also possible that there will be more people put on this list because also people that are aiding in some way the ICC in its investigations could be also put on this list and be sanctions. And at the same time, there are also, for example, Human Rights Watch warning that this might have really broad effect on the International Court of Justice, on the International Criminal Court, because, for example, there might be other institutions like banks, for example, that might be afraid of violating these sanctions and therefore will not want to work with the ICC or the people which are being sanctioned anymore. So this could also have far-reaching, or Human Rights Watch is, for example, also warning that this could have very far-reaching consequences for people seeking justice.
Now, just very briefly, the ICC had issued an arrest warrant against Netanyahu and other Israeli officials. The U.S. had been opposed to that. Is this what this is all about, the United States taking some kind of revenge against the court?
But first of all, this coincides with a visit of Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington. And secondly, if you look at the executive order, you see that Israel is mentioned and also the arrest warrants towards Benjamin Netanyahu and also the former defense minister Yoav Gallant. So there is clearly a link to that.
Well, thank you so much for your reporting. That is Lucia Schulten for us in Brussels.